Today is the Federal Reserve's hotly anticipated interest rate meeting. And you can see here in the seasonals that there is a stronger bias for heavier S&P 500 selling than gains over the last 5 years of Fed meetings. Now, the average winning losing trade has been 50%, but it is more heavily biased to the sell side. And if you just take a look at some of these maximum falls over the years, you can see there's been some pretty significant falls, and there is a heavier selling bias than there is buying bias, which you can just visually see here in the pattern. Now, expectations in short-term interest rate markets are for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates a whopping 4 times next year. You can see here, short-term interest rate markets see from 5.37 down to 4.36% by the end of next year, and that is a 100 basis points rate cut, which is 425 basis points. Now that is very, very heavy and dovish pricing. It's unlikely that the Federal Reserve are going to signal that that is what they're expecting. And don't forget, the dot plot from September 2023 saw a medium rate of 5.1%. So the Fed can signal via the dot plot that they're expecting higher rates for longer. And if they do, then do watch for heavy potential S&P 500 selling in line with the risk event feature as highlighted in the Seasonax risk event tool. You can see that there's a heavier bias for S&P 500 selling. Now, of course, there is a risk here, and the major risk here is if the Federal Reserve affirms short-term interest rate market pricing and or signal a coming rate cut. That could be a clear bias to negate this selling strength in the S&P 500, but nevertheless, it is worth being well aware that the S&P 500 has greater propensity to falls and to drops out of the Fed meeting than it does gains. And if there is a much more hawkish approach from the Federal Reserve, then we could see a heavy down day for the S&P 500, which already is fairly extended to the upside and up around those all-time high levels. So selling from this area would make sense in a broader macro perspective. Remember, don't just trade it, Seasonax it.